Hi everyone, I'm Mark Stowe, and in this week's sit down, we're going to be getting real with Nathan Adams. Nathan is a young, aspiring tournament angler. He's also a guide down on Vero Trophy Bass Lakes. 24 years old.
Yes, sir.
And went to Murray State, and let's see, believe you called Missouri home. What part
Yep.
of Missouri were you from?
I live about 45 minutes from downtown St. Louis. It's called House Springs. That's where I grew up for the last 18 years. I've lived a little bit further in till I was 6, and then my family moved out a little further, and that's where I've been. And then now I live in Murray after I graduated. That's where I'm at right now.
So you grew up just in the suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri?
Yep. Grew up in the suburbs, fishing farm ponds and subdivisions that I could get into where they wouldn't kick me out.
Where they wouldn't kick him out. that doesn't sound good, but all right, I'm gonna let that slide. But so tell me, you went, grade school where?
It's called Kellison Elementary. It was in Fenton, which is 10 minutes from my house. All my grade school, middle school, and high school were all, you could walk to every one of them from each other. So I went all in Fenton up until high school, and then after high school went down to Murray State basically just to fish.
And when did the fishing kind of kick into your life there?
I always fished growing up. My grandpa was a cattle farmer. He always had farm ponds. So that's kind of where I started. And then when I was 12, probably, I guess, 2008, 2009, I saw my first Bassmaster Classic on TV. And after watching that, I knew I wanted to fish tournaments. And I fished my first tournament on a little lake in southeast Missouri called Wapapello Lake. Me and my uncle fished it. I think I caught one fish all day on a buzzbait, and I think at the end of it he gave me like $20 because we got third or fourth, and that was it for me. It was like the coolest thing ever.
That'll hook you right there. Isn't
Yeah.
it funny? Somebody gives you that little dollar and you get excited.
Yeah.
But the tournament side, you went through high school, I guess, competing. Tell me a little bit about where you competed at and how that led over to Murray State.
So when I was growing up, we didn't have the high school teams, the big high school tournaments. It was the junior Bassmasters at the time. That's what we had. So they had a 11 through 14 age group and a 15 through 18 age group. So I competed all up until I was 18. And there was never a high school team at my school, so that's what I did. And I won state one year, got to go to Louisiana and fish, and it was a blast. And I met guys I still talk to today, the guys that are super successful. And then that kind of led me into, I want to go to school because college fishing was taking off, and my high school didn't have a team. I was like, I want to go to school and I want to fish, in the best school and on one of the best lakes. And Murray really caught my eye, and I never applied anywhere else. I applied to one school, and that was Murray, and I got accepted, and that's where I went.
Gotcha. So then you fished through high school competitively, and so did you win the state when you were in high school?
So for my age group, when I was, I think, 14, I won my age group in the state for the junior federation. And so we had a Missouri team that went to Louisiana to do the central regional on the Atchafalaya Basin down there.
Well, that's a neat accomplishment to have on the shelf right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Being that young and in the tournament side of it. So then you went on to Murray State, and Murray State kind of has a unique team setup because it is student ran.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your experience at Murray State and in the college side of bass fishing.
So Murray, a lot of schools are affiliated with their college as far as funding, scholarships, a coach, and we just don't have that. And there's nothing against having a coach or anything like that, but our school is kind of more of a club sport, fishing was. So we got to use the school's name, but we didn't get any funding or scholarships. So we raised our own money. We sent teams to these tournaments. We paid for a travel allotment, and it was all student ran. We had a president, vice president, a secretary, we had everything, and it was all students. voted in by students, ran by students, and I was always super proud of that because we were able to compete and be a top 5 school every single year that I was there, and we didn't have a coach, we didn't have someone out there, we didn't have the whole team practicing and sharing information, and we were out there, just kind of for ourselves, for the students, and we could still compete. So I was always took a lot of pride in that.
Well, and that kind of leads to the subject of, that fishing isn't just fishing. I mean, when you look at the skills that you gained, one from the competition at a young age and learning to compete and the discipline it takes to compete, the preparation, all of those things, that those are true life skills. And so plugging fishing into that and saying, tell me what fishing, how those experiences went on to apply in life at this stage now, because you're 24, you're a guide, you also are a real estate agent. And tell me how fishing kind of, what you've taken from fishing and applied to those job skills.
I think most of it is kind of what you said. It's a lot of mental stuff, things like preparation and hard work and determination and perseverance and stuff like that. It's not necessarily I'm not a very organized person, so fishing didn't teach me organization, so I was more of I looked at fishing as, a way to how I should kind of run my life, and just hard work, and you're going to have bad days, but you're going to get over them, and at the end of the day, you're still fishing, so it can't be that bad. But college fishing and competing and, having to work on a board and try to, when you're a board member, there's only 7 of you, and you've got to dictate what's best for 50 people. We had a big team, 50, 60 people sometimes. So teamwork and cooperation and a lot of, meeting skills and how to talk to people and how to respect people and, how to talk about stuff that you don't always agree on without people blowing up and yelling at each other. You know what I mean? So,
and them are all real life skills.
Yeah,
I mean, they're skills that, I think that's where sports in general, we'll use fishing as the sport. They give you those life skills, and it's always neat for me to stop and pause and look at all the skills and the things that fishing has done for me that have blended over into my life and all of that.
Yeah.
So, I always enjoy asking that question of, how has fishing bled over into your work and that. And so I guess on the personal side of fishing, what's your favorite moment or accomplishment inside of all your, of all your fishing experiences?
Favorite accomplishment, I think, is, and we kind of talked about it today a little bit, about one moment. I don't really have one moment that was my, looking back and just seeing how far I've come as an angler is my favorite thing. And because it's something that, when I was 18 years old, I used to get so mad at myself. And then I look back now, 6 years ago when I was 18, I didn't know crap. I didn't know anything. So for me to get angry was kind of silly at the time. And just kind of how far I've come and coming from an area where, I went to a high school where no one knew what competitive bass fishing was. No one really even fished, let alone did tournaments. So for me to do that and go from ponds to, when I first drove a boat, it was my boat, and I had to learn how to drive it, and I had to learn how to break down lakes. I didn't have really that person teaching me a lot of that until I got into college and met some people. So I think just overall how far I've come as an angler and the angler that I've become is my favorite kind of moment or accomplishment.
So if you had to pick up one bait, and I'm only going to give you one, you can't use the angler approach of, it depends on where and what.
Right.
If you had to pick up one bait, what would that one bait be?
Probably a jig. It's something that I've kind of gotten away from for a while. But I grew up in Missouri fishing Ozark Lakes, and a 7-foot medium heavy rod and a jig is hard to beat. You can slim it, you can skip it, you can drag it, hop it. I mean, it's super versatile and it gets big bites.
That's definitely an Ozark a staple right there is the jig. So if you had to pick one lake, favorite place you've ever fished or had to go, that you've experienced,
Yeah.
which one would it be?
Um,
Or maybe one that you haven't been on that you want to go to, but really
Yeah.
which one that you've been to?
Man, I've been to a lot of really cool places, and they're all different. You know, like Bull Shoals is full of fish, and it's super fun in the springtime. And but I would say probably Logan Martin's probably been my favorite for a while. Coosa River, not a lot of big fish that I've caught there, but it's super fun. It's always been good to me when I've been there, and you know, even if the spots aren't big, they're gonna fight like they are, and that's probably one of my favorite places to go.
Well, Logan Martin, I hadn't actually been on, so that's a neat one to name. I might have to put that on my list to travel to. So I guess in saying that, you know, you got a nickname, Big Nate. A lot of you said all your friends call you Big Nate, so I should have introduced him as Big Nate. But so how'd you catch that nickname? I mean, where'd that come from?
It's kind of funny because I've never been called Nate until I got to college. I was always Nathan. You know, everybody called me Nathan, and then I got to college, and people started calling me Nate, and we had a Big Dan, and I was bigger than Big Dan, so I became Big Nate. Is pretty much how it happened.
Well, that's pretty good because I got introduced to you know, through Brent Anderson, a friend, and Brent said, "Well, you're gonna go fishing with Big Nate." And he told me all about you. I said, "Man, bring this guy. I want to meet him. I want to get in the boat with him and get to know him." And you know, I had the joy of fishing with you, and you know, throughout the day, you brought a lot of. I enjoyed the personal side of you, of how you brought and talked about life and appreciating, you know, life. And so I guess for me, the question I always enjoy asking, you know, the questions of somebody. If somebody was to say, "How do you want to be remembered?" and you know, how do you answer that question?
I've always tried to be a really optimistic, really positive person. I don't always, you know, but we're human. We're not always going to be that person. But, you know, I've always wanted to be kind of remembered as that guy that can always have a good time. He can always, you know, relax and be positive, and, you know, just that guy that's going to be kind to everybody and nice to everybody. And, you know, I've got a lot of friends from a lot of different places, and it don't matter to me where you're from, who you came from, who your parent, you know what I mean? It's just, I've always wanted to treat people equally and be as nice of a person as I can be. And, you know, that's just kind of how I was raised. I was never raised that anybody was better than me or that I was better than anybody else. So that's kind of how I want to keep living.
That is an awesome statement to say in today's, you know, society and world, because that's really so important. And, you know, I saw that today in you, and you know, just in your conversations and how you carry yourself, and saying that, it's you know, it's always a joy to sit down and talk to somebody like this and get to quiz them and see what makes them tick. And you know, I guess the simple part of this is, you know, if you have one last thing to say to everybody and share with them before we walk off from here, and you know, sharing this moment of getting real, is, you know, what would it be to, you know, to say to everybody?
We talked about it today. It's just, you know, every day is a gift, and you don't know when, you know, it's going to be your last. We're all in line, but we just don't know where we are in that line. You know what I mean? So, you know, definitely do what you love, do what you enjoy, and it's as simple as that. You know, don't live for the weekends. I get to have the best job in the world, you know, and I love it, and it's what I love to do, and it makes me happy. So I hope
that's never a job.
Right, and it's never a job if it makes you happy.
Well, that's well said. It's like I said, it's always a joy to be around somebody who has the, you know, the character that you're bringing right here, and
I appreciate
the
that.
folks that you'll affect down the road. I mean, the next generation of youth, they're going to be looking up to you.
Well, I appreciate it.
When you set a great example like that, and it brings good to the sport of fishing, and that's what I love about the outdoors. So, Nate, appreciate you taking a little bit of time to share a little bit about yourself, and it's always awesome, folks, to talk to a great person like Nate Adams. That was awesome.